age of information, the battlefield is the mind. In the ongoing narrative war, the most dangerous enemy is not the one who openly opposes you, it is the one who claims to stand with you while secretly working for the other side. They are called controlled opposition, and in the distant right, no figure fits this description more perfectly than Nicolas J. Fuentes. Fuentes can't be understood through a single lens. It requires a synthesis of history, psychology, intelligence, tradecraft, and geopolitics. He is not a mere political commentator. He is a complex weapon system deployed on the digital battlefield. Fuentes' ascension has been perfectly timed, coordinated to a T. When the people need a hero, we will provide them one. His effectiveness relies on the deliberate cultivation and exploitation of his personal contradictions. Fuentes is a silver-tongued Pied Piper who has effectively managed to master the art of doublespeak. He is a politician in training, and true to form, he is a liar. Welcome to Projection, the Double Life of Nicolas J. Fuentes. Act 1. The Bloodline Betrayal. Let's start with the name itself. Etymology unveils many hidden links. Fuentes is not a random Spanish surname. It is a name historically associated with Sephardic Jewish families from the Iberian Peninsula. Following the Abrahamic Decree of 1492, Sephardic Jews faced a choice: expulsion, death, or conversion to Catholicism. Those who chose conversion were known as conversos. A significant number of these conversos became crypto-Jews, or Marranos, a term meaning swine, outwardly practicing Catholicism while secretly maintaining their Jewish rituals and identity. This was a survival mechanism that required mastering the art of the double life, a public persona that perfectly mimicked the host culture to conceal a private, truer identity. The irony is almost too perfect. The man who positions himself as a pure Catholic opposition leader to Zionist influence may very well carry the bloodline of the very people he claims to demonize. These conversos were masters of the double life, a public face and a private truth. This isn't an accusation, it's a historical fact about the name. And for a man whose entire brand is blood and soil, the question of his own bloodline is the most pertinent question of all. The historical pattern is clear, of Fuentes living a double life, presenting a Catholic face to the world, while his heritage and private allegiance lie elsewhere. This is not a conspiracy, it is documented history. To ignore this pattern while analyzing a modern figure with the same name who operates in the realm of ethnic and religious identity politics is willful blindness. But the historical double life doesn't end in 15th century Spain. Fuentes, who has built an entire political brand on blood and soil, on the existential threat of mass immigration, and on the preservation of white Western civilization, is himself, by his own bloodline, the son of a Mexican immigrant.
You're a white supremacist? I'm not a white supremacist. I'm Mexican. I know, I kind of white supremacist. Okay.
His father, a gastroenterologist, emigrated from Mexico. Let that sink in. The most inflammatory voice rallying against the demographic transformation of America is a direct product of that very process. This is not an accident. This is not a coincidence. Fuentes is straight from central casting. The system needed a man who could passionately argue for borders, for heritage, for bloodline, while himself embodying the very thing his movement supposedly fears. This makes him the perfect, indefensible hypocrite. It is the ultimate kill switch, a built-in self-destruct mechanism for the entire ideology he promotes. Now, this is not an attack on Nick. It's a verifiable fact. He is a living, breathing contradiction. and this is precisely why he was chosen. His paternal heritage is the supreme example of the engineered hypocrisy and controlled nature of his entire operation. But the double life does not exist in a vacuum. It requires a host institution. For a man posing as an ultra-traditional Catholic leader, the most powerful and sophisticated institution within the Church is the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits. Historically, the Jesuits were the intellectual shock troops of the Counter-Reformation, masters of doctrine, education, and infiltration. Their name is synonymous with intellectual rigor and political maneuverings. Fuentes' entire operation mirrors the Jesuit method of deception, similar to Mossad's slogan of "make war by way of deception." It is not a simple, heartfelt faith. It is a hyper-intellectualized, legalistic, and performative Catholicism, obsessed with dogma, orthodoxy, and stringent ideological purity tests. This is not the faith of the common man. It is the weaponization of faith. Nick functions less like a pastor and more like a provincial of a dissident Jesuit order, using doctrine to control his followers and isolate them from the broader world. This connection provides the modern mechanism for the ancient converso strategy. If his potential crypto-Jewish heritage is the what, this Jesuit framework could be the how, the sophisticated intellectual engine that directs and contains his movement, ensuring its energy is spent on internal doctrinal disputes rather than external political threats.
Kings of Europe used to hire the Jews to torture their own people. Maybe the Jews will hire me to torture all of you. Wouldn't that be something? It's still an option. It's always an option. Let's just say, let's put that on the back burner. Let's just say that's plan B.
Act 2. The Closeted Nationalist, a projection of shame. Conversos were masters of the double life. Well, this fits Fuentes to a T. Fuentes' sexuality is a poorly kept secret. His behavior points in one direction, a closeted individual who desperately overcompensates at every turn. Let's look at the pattern. First, we will start with the Catboy incident. His date with a well-known homosexual Catboy streamer named Catboy Cammy is a specific, bizarre event that aligns with certain subcultural patterns within the homosexual community, not with traditional Catholic courtship. He seems to have a fixation with these catboys. These are not jokes, and most of his community embraces it.
A catboy butler.
At 100%. That's the plan. The America First plan is we're going to, like, you know how TWP has their place? We're going to build a compound out in the western United States.
A kennel.
That's right. So the compound and the kennel will be next door, and we'll have cat boys everywhere. They'll be serving steaks and ice cream and warm cookies and Burger King, and we'll be playing Fortnite, and nobody will grow old. And
that's this idea that's been brought into the zeitgeist, right? It's to stop men from making relationships because we're dangerous when we're together.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, you give your friend a hug, oh, gay.
Yeah.
Oh, you go out.
Friend on the lip.
Oh, you have a shower with your friend, gay.
belly's full. I'm energized. I'm charged up. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock.
Then there was the time he was accidentally caught watching gay during a stream, but claimed he was hacked. He literally claimed that Mossad's Cyber Unit A200 hacked him. This defense is laughable. The simpler, more logical explanation is a lapse in operational security that revealed his true browsing history. His explanation or excuse is a classic deception tactic. Vladimir Lenin once wrote that true revolutionaries should not be afraid to discard revolutionary phraseology and be ready to adopt right-wing tactics to carry out a revolutionary policy. This would help explain Nick's well-documented obsession with destiny. This long-standing, intense, and deeply personal feud turned relationship with the left-leaning streamer reeks of a form of psychological projection and latent attraction. Their interactions often carry a strange, intimate tension more common to a toxic relationship than a political debate.
Okay.
Why do you hang out with children?
Well, they're hotter. Based. Let's fucking go. That's why we love him. That's why we love this guy.
Fuentes has a fixation with male-only sleepovers, and his performative, almost militant celibacy seems less about piety and more about suppressing his true nature. It is a classic case of an overcompensation mechanism, an attempt to loudly proclaim one thing to silence the internal reality of its opposite. It is a classic symptom of a deeply closeted individual within a community that would reject his true nature. His followers had become so hopelessly lost that he had them take an oath to kill and die for Nick Fuentes. This creates the foundation for psychological projection on a mass scale. Fuentes' most venomous rhetoric against degeneracy, homosexuality, and weakness is likely an externalization of his own self-loathing and internal conflict. He attacks in others what he fears most in himself. This makes his rhetoric particularly potent and hate-filled, which is a feature, not a bug, for his controllers. Carl Jung called it enigmatic, the tendency to become the very thing you oppose. Is Nick's vehement public stance a massive projection of his own internal struggle? Everything he rails against seems to be a reflection of his own demented double life, another mask, just like his converso ancestors.
I like women, okay? I apologize. This is really graphic. Don't have your kids listening to this. There was no warning. We just went straight into all this freaky stuff. I'm giving a guy a... That was my penis. Wearing a butt plug. The guy's a freak. I mean, this guy is sick. Destiny's wearing a butt plug on the stream. That's just an added detail. And of
You are
course...
a gay man who exclusively surrounds himself with other young gay men, many of whom are openly pedophiles.
Based?
Act 3, the PDF Protector, the ultimate hypocrisy. We have established the private shame that fuels Fuentes' public rage, but this psychological projection does not just make him a hypocrite, it makes him a dangerous enabler. For all his venom directed at degeneracy, Nicolas Fuentes has repeatedly, consistently, and unmistakably revealed a disturbing sympathy for the most vile degeneracy of all, the predation of children. The evidence is not a single slip-up, it is a pattern of behavior. Ali Alexander was a high-up in the America First movement. Ali was arrested for grooming a... Fuentes knew about it. When he finally did distance himself from it, he still defended Ali, acting like flirting with a child is no big deal. This isn't a joke, it's sick. Parents detest Nick Fuentes because they have an innate emotion to protect their children, and Nick is a threat to them. Fuentes has openly joked about and downplayed the crimes of maps, the manipulative term of PDFs used to rebrand themselves. He laughs at the ages of consent and constantly is dog whistling to other PDF files. He treats the horrific, elite-enabled trafficking operation of Jeffrey Epstein as a laughing matter, a joke for his stream, rather than the grotesque crime against humanity that it is. Listen, he doesn't care if his followers are PDFs, as long as they help him advance his mission.
The Holy Spirit go and say, I need it. How old was the Virgin Mary? I think she was like, well, she wasn't 18, I'll say that much. Certainly wasn't 18. You know what I expect? A fertile womb. A fertile womb and a sort of innocent, childlike spirit. All these people in the chat, dude, just stop. Shut up. Shut up. If you're I'm banning people. If you're telling me to stop, you're gone. Bye. I don't care how gay they are. As long as they're my loyal cult members that give me money and dox hillbillies when I give the command.
Now let's do some mental gymnastics. Analyze this moral calculus. This is a man who claims to be a God-fearing Catholic, but will crack jokes about of children. He has drawn a moral line in the sand that is utterly inverted. He will attack the superficial sin, but defend the profound evil. And herein lies the function. This is why he is tolerated, promoted, and protected, because his activism is not a threat to the real predators. He focuses his followers' rage on the approved, often imaginary, cultural enemies, the woke mob, the cultural Marxists, even the Jays, while providing implicit cover for the very real, well-connected PDF networks that operate with impunity. He is the perfect opposition. He gets to play the moral crusader for his audience, all while ensuring the most serious moral crusade of all, the one against the actual powerful PDF elite, never truly begins. He is a moral smoke bomb, creating a cloud of outrage that obscures the true villains and protects the most vile secrets of the ruling class. He doesn't just ignore PDF. His rhetoric actively diverts energy away from it. It's a constant dog whistle, letting others know he is okay with it. This makes him an invaluable asset to the very system he claims to oppose. Act 4. The Geopolitical Puppet. Now you may be wondering, why does this matter? Why? Because Nick Fuentes occupies a critical geopolitical space. When Andrew Tate was taken off the board, he left a vacuum, a massive audience of young, disillusioned men filled with masculine rage and a desire to rebel against the system. His psychological and historical profile makes Fuentes the perfect asset. Controlled opposition is not about silencing a movement, it's about leading it into a dead end. First, dissent needs to be corralled. Fuentes was amplified to capture that audience and ensure their energy was contained within a controlled narrative. Next, Fuentes has been used to poison the well. He takes legitimate, factual critiques of Zionist influence over U.S. foreign policy, of globalist banking structures, of demographic replacement, and bundles them with his own extreme rhetoric, personal baggage, and psychological pathologies. This allows the mainstream media to discredit the entire dissident position by pointing to its most flawed and easily caricatured leader. He makes truth seem insane. This is all done by design. His martyrdom is cynical, intentional. His periodic deplatforming from mainstream sites is not an attempt to silence him, quite the opposite. He uses it to give his voice legitimacy. Each ban reinforces his martyr status among his followers, building loyalty and distrust of the mainstream, while his continued presence on alternative platforms ensures he remains the dominant voice. A truly dangerous person is not banned and made a martyr. They are simply disappeared. For someone so censored, the algorithm seems very friendly to Nick Fuentes. And we must ask, is Nick truly America First, like his organization claims?
But the Chinese are going to come in and make it worse? The day that China owns this country. I pray on it. We want that to happen. It will be better for us.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, Gunner. Yeah. You gonna go and fight for Taiwan?
You what?
You gonna go and fight for Taiwan? You gonna go and fight to shore up Taiwanese independence or fucking Ukraine or whatever? Are you gonna go on the frontiers of this gay fag empire and fight and die for it?
I support us defending Taiwan's right to autonomy and to them having their own state and defending themselves from China, because that's what the people want.
Oh, is it? Taiwan is Chinese clay. It is rightful Chinese clay. And I can't wait for China to wrest it back under their control and absolutely humiliate the American government in front of God and everybody, in front of the whole world. Because then the whole world will see that the American regime is a real paper tiger. And then maybe, forces like the Taliban and Assad and Russia and China will finally begin to rise up and break the chains, break free from the sick, evil empire, which is what it is.
The Charlie Kirk incident was a litmus test. The assassination of Kirk, who was becoming critical of Israel, was a significant event. The response of any authentic dissident leader would be to demand a full, fearless investigation into all potential motives and actors. Fuentes' immediate, vehement denial of any possible Israeli involvement is the single most revealing action of his entire career. It demonstrates where his true loyalties lie. He is not allowed to tread on that third rail. His function is to attack the culture of the left, never the true power of the Zionist establishment. Fuentes didn't get the call, he is the call. His Jesuit methodology also explains his geopolitical role with chilling precision. The modern Jesuit order is not known for nationalist sentiment. It is a globalist, universalist institution, often at odds with traditionalist, ethnic-based identity politics. So why would such an institution or individuals within it foster a figure like Fuentes? The answer is containment and controlled demolition. They allow him to attack the modernists in the church, which aligns with their internal political struggles, but they ensure that he attacks from a position that is so extreme, so fringe, and so tied to racialism that it is ultimately incapable of actually reforming the church. He makes authentic traditionalism look insane by association. His hyper-Catholic branding serves as the perfect foil. It creates a useful dichotomy: the globalist, universalist left versus the hyper-traditionalist, racist right. This dichotomy completely erases the viable middle ground of organic, mainstream, America First nationalists. He helps ensure the debate is between two unacceptable extremes, both of which serve the globalist end goal of destroying the nation state. He may not be a Jesuit in the literal sense, but his operation is Jesuitism in its design. It is a masterpiece of controlled opposition, using a rigid ideological structure to create a movement that is pre-programmed for failure, all while masquerading as its ultimate champion. Act 5. The Unexplained Finances. The Black Budget. Let's talk about one thing that never lies: money. For a man perpetually deplatformed and censored, Nick Fuentes operates with a budgetary flexibility that would make a congressman blush. This is not grassroots funding. This is a black budget. He is banned from every major platform, yet his production quality is studio level. He travels constantly and maintains a permanent studio setup. This requires a steady, significant, and resilient flow of capital. Grassroots donations from disaffected young men are volatile and easily disrupted. His funding stream is not. After the January 6 protests, Fuentes claimed his personal finances were wiped out, yet within an impossibly short time frame, he went back on air, fully funded. This rapid recapitalization does not come from passing the hat. It comes from a deep-pocketed benefactor, a benefactor who requires a return on their investment. His funding has a specific purpose. It is not to build a parallel society. It is to stimulate opposition. The money pays for the high production streams, the cross-country tours, the dramatic staging, all designed to create the theater of a movement, to absorb energy and attention, and to ensure no viable, authentic alternative can gain financial traction. He is a money sink, and he helps to move toward the normalization of degeneracy. And let's be 100% clear, January 6th wasn't about leading a heroic movement. Fuentes laid a trap for his own followers. Once arrests were being made, he distanced himself, calling his followers useful idiots when he clearly led the charge.
Moving towards the capital, it appears we are taking the capital. Keep marching and don't relent, never relent. Break down the barriers and disregard the police. Should live in fear of the American people. They are betraying over and
A lot of the leaders didn't go down, but a lot of the useful idiots that went in, they did go down. And some people may say, well, what about you? Nobody that was with me went in the building because I had the good sense to say, whoa, that's a bad idea. So just like I said on January 6th to the people, and everybody says, well, you told them to go in. That's rhetoric. I said, oh, we're in the we're on the Capitol lawn, like we took control of the city, blah blah blah. But the people that were nobody that was with me went in. Everybody says you told them to go in. Really?
Act 6. The purpose of the court jester. This is the oldest trick in the book. The system elevates the most easily caricatured and flawed figures to represent an ideology. Alex Jones, Richard Spencer, Q, now Nick Fuentes. If he were a real threat, he would have been utterly erased. Instead, he shuffled from platform to platform, banned just enough to be a martyr, but always amplified enough to be the face of the movement. Nick Fuentes is a multi-layered asset. Historically, he is a potential modern incarnation of the crypto Jew, using a Catholic nationalist mask. Psychologically, he is a self-loathing, closeted homosexual whose internal rage is harnessed and directed against targets that are chosen for him. Geopolitically, he is a controlled opposition leader, tasked with corralling, poisoning, and discrediting genuine anti-globalist and anti-Zionist sentiment. He is not a leader, he is a manager. His job is to manage your dissent, to ensure it is never effective. He is the product of a sophisticated psychological operation, and his personal life is the key to understanding his public function. Recognizing this is the first step towards developing a truly independent and effective opposition. To understand the effectiveness of the weapon, we must first acknowledge its utility. There is no question that Nicolas Fuentes, with his sharp intellect and silver tongue, has played a role in red-pilling a generation of young men. For many, he was the first voice to ever articulate the uncomfortable truths of the JQ, the reality of Zionist influence over foreign policy, the media, and our financial systems. Nick helped to demystify the taboo. He took discussions once confined to the darkest corners of the internet and presented them in a packaged, live-streamed format, making them accessible to normies. He helped to provide a framework. He gave a generation a lens through which to view the world's dysfunction that wasn't provided by the mainstream media. For this, he gained a dedicated following. But this is the bait and the trap. This useful service is negated 1,000 times over by the catastrophic destruction it has caused. Fuentes wasn't designed to build a movement. He was designed to ensure it would never succeed. Fuentes poisoned the well. He took legitimate, factual critiques and bundled them with his own pathological baggage extreme rhetoric, and personal hypocrisy. This allows the media to discredit the entire dissident position by pointing to its most flawed and easily caricatured leader. He makes truth sound insane. He became the caricature. He is the living, breathing straw man. The system needs a Nick Fuentes. He is the perfect villain for them to point and say, see, this is what the criticism of Israel looks like. This is what nationalism looks like. He scares away moderates, conservatives, and anyone with the future in politics from ever touching these ideas with a 10-foot pole. Nick has sabotaged from within. As we've shown, his entire operation is based on purging effective allies and fostering ideological paralysis. He doesn't want to win. He wants to be the king of a tiny, irrelevant, and pure digital ruin. So, did he expose the JQ? Yes, but he did it in the most damaging way imaginable. He didn't arm a movement, he infected it. He is the Trojan horse, presenting a gift of forbidden knowledge on the outside, while filled with the tools of our movement's destruction on the inside. For every normie he red-pilled, he has permanently alienated 1,000 others. His service is the service of a demolition expert disguised as an architect. You see, a movement grows through alliances and building. Fuentes' operation is defined by one consistent behavior: the deliberate and systematic destruction of any potential rival or ally who shows a hint of authenticity or effectiveness. He is not a leader building a coalition. He is a gardener weeding away authentic, true opposition. He identifies any figure on the right who gains traction with the message of sober, serious opposition. You will observe as Fuentes immediately engages not to debate, but to destroy. He will comb their history, amplify any potential flaw, and unleash his audience in a frenzy of purity spiraling. The goal is not to improve the movement, but to cripple it. His constant nitpicking debates over the most arcane points of Catholic doctrine or racialist theory are a feature. They are designed to trap the movement in a state of perpetual, useless internal argument. While Rome burns, Fuentes is leading a seminar on the correct type of incense to use. This is a deliberate strategy to prevent the formation of a practicable, actionable political program. By setting himself up as the ultimate arbiter of ideological purity, he makes the movement hostile to new members and incapable of coalition building. Anyone who joins is immediately subject to a litmus test. They are destined to fail. This ensures the movement remains a small, contained, and ineffective countercultural club, not a political threat. Act 7. The Israel Test. The ultimate red line. The invisible leash. We come to the litmus test, the ultimate reveal of any dissident voice, their position on Israel and its influence. For all Fuentes' bombastic rhetoric against every institution, Fuentes' immediate reaction after the Charlie Kirk assassination was the single most revealing moment of his entire career.
If you're talking about Erica Kirk, that I believe. People say Israel killed Charlie Kirk. Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Charlie Kirk was evolving. He was beginning to criticize Israel, to question the unconditional aid, to threaten the bipartisan consensus. His assassination served as a warning to every other potential dissenter. An authentic nationalist would have seen the motive obvious to any intelligence analyst and demand a full investigation into all possibilities, including foreign state sponsorship. Fuentes' immediate, panicked dismissal of this angle was a direct order followed to the letter. It proved conclusively who his master is.
with my audience, they wanted to rush and blame Israel. That was the first gut reaction of my audience. And in this case, I said, I'm certainly not reluctant to blame Israel for one thing or another if there's evidence. I mean, based on who I am, I said, but he was a pro-Israel guy. So, I mean, that would be like saying if Ben Shapiro got taken out, God forbid, and people said Israel did it. That would be pretty far-fetched.
Fuentes will allow his followers to criticize Zionism in the abstract, just as a safety pressure release valve, but he never talks about the Jesuit order, the Federal Reserve System, Freemasonry, or the global PDF networks. He is permitted to play act rebellion, but he is forbidden from identifying the real enemy. This is the most important control mechanism of all. Act 8, the manufactured mainstreaming, the calculated rollout. For years, Nick Fuentes was a fringe phenomenon, confined to the darkest corners of the internet. Then, suddenly, in the span of a single month, he was everywhere. This was not an accident. This was a carefully orchestrated PR campaign, and the assassination of Charlie Kirk was the catalyst they used to launch him into the mainstream. Phase 1 was the softening up. Literally, the day before the Kirk incident, the New York Times does a profile piece on Fuentes. The New York Times doesn't do profiles on nobodies. This was a deliberate act to legitimize him and introduce and reintroduce him to a liberal audience as the new leader of the new right. It framed him, making him a known quantity, and the timing was meticulously planned the day before Kirk's assassination. And in the weeks building up to the New York Times profile piece, Fuentes was getting publicly bashed by Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, two more agents playing their selected roles on the world stage. This is the oldest trick in the book. As they always say, there is no such thing as bad publicity. And by having mainstream conservative figures like Carlson and Owens loudly condemn him, they achieved two things. One, they signaled to normie conservatives that he was a dangerous figure. Two, most importantly, they introduced his name and brand to their millions of viewers. For every person who was warned away, 10 more were made curious. Who is this guy that has Tucker so upset? And on top of that, he appeared on Jake Shields' podcast in July. Phase 2, the catalyst, the Kirk assassination. Then, the predictable tragedy struck. Charlie Kirk, who had begun to step onto the third reel of criticizing Israel, was assassinated. This was the trigger point. The entire dissident right was in a state of shock and demanded answers. The stage was perfectly set. Phase 3, the assignment, the loyalty test. And right on cue, Fuentes performed his single most important function. While others asked questions, he provided the answer his handlers required. Immediate, absolute denial of Israeli involvement. This was his loyalty test, broadcast live to the world, and he passed, and in doing so, he made himself invaluable to the system. He was now the reasonable dissent, the one who wouldn't cross that final red line. Phase 4, the reward, mainstream access. The reward for his obedience was immediate. Within days, he was granted what he had always craved, mainstream validation, an interview with Patrick Bet-David, a platform with millions of mainstream conservative subscribers. This was not a coincidence. This was a payment. He was no longer a banned extremist. He was a commentator being interviewed on a major business show. The transformation was complete. Now just think about the sequence: condemnation, tragedy, obedience, reward. This is not how organic dissident movements grow. This is how an asset is groomed, tested, and promoted. The entire process was a managed strategic rollout designed to take a controlled opposition asset and elevate him to a new level of influence, all while ensuring his first loyalties were made perfectly clear. But the Bet David interview was just a recent example of Fuentes being rewarded by his true employers. The ultimate signal of system approval, the one that should silence all doubts about his controlled status, came in November 2022. Nicolas Fuentes, the man who was banned from every corporate platform, the alleged extremist too dangerous for the public to hear, was not raided by the FBI. He was not thrown into a dark site. He was invited to a dinner. Fuentes broke bread with the former and current president of the United States at his exclusive club. Let that reality dismantle your perception of how power truly works. The system does not crush authentic threats. It co-opts them. It gives them a seat at the table on its own terms. This dinner was the strongest possible signal. It signaled to the dissident movement that Fuentes was the approved leader, and it signaled to Fuentes unequivocally what was expected of him to maintain that status. It was the carrot to the stick of Kompromat. It was the ultimate proof that his opposition is not just controlled, it is invited. Act 9. Useful idiot or willing asset? Now the question remains, is Fuentes a useful idiot or a willing asset? It would seem he is acutely aware of the stakes. His behavior, the frantic cover-ups, the aggressive deflection, the strict adherence to certain red lines, is not the behavior of a free man. It is the behavior of a man who knows that he is owned. He is a theatrical production designed to make legitimate opposition look insane, perverted, and hypocritical. He drains the energy of potential revolutionaries into a dead-end circus of live-streamed drama. He acts as an early warning system to his handlers, allowing them to monitor the trends and sentiments within the dissident right. He also provides a controlled outlet for anger, ensuring it never forms into a genuine threat to the true power structure. His role is not to win, it is performative dissonance. Act 10. The Kompromat, the inescapable prison. To truly understand the importance of Fuentes' vulnerability, we must understand the art of Kompromat, aka compromising material or blackmail. Fuentes' vulnerabilities make him the ideal candidate for recruitment, control, and blackmail. His hidden proclivities become leverage points. This is the most powerful and classic form of blackmail, is the closeted individual, especially one who has a proclivity towards younger targets. This is the primary lever of control, and for Fuentes, this is key. For a man who has built his entire brand on hyper-traditionalism, Catholic purity, and masculine posturing, being revealed as a closeted homosexual would be utterly catastrophic. It would destroy his credibility, his movement, and his personal identity in one stroke. His followers, who are drawn to his image of ideological and personal purity, would feel profoundly betrayed. The humiliation would be total, so the impending threat of exposure is always there. His handlers don't need to be shadowy figures in a trench coat or chabanics. The blackmail can be as simple as a quiet, off-the-record understanding. He knows what they know. He knows that one phone call to the right dissident journalist could end his career. Therefore, he must continually prove his usefulness to maintain the protection of silence. His vehement, over-the-top public denials of the rumors are in themselves performances of compliance. He's proving to his handlers that he's actively maintaining the cover they require him to keep. Not to mention, we know how blackmail works and what it entails. Children are often the honeypots, and Nick has given all the signs that he would willingly indulge. And let's suppose he does come from a crypto-Jew heritage, as his last name reveals, with deep Jesuit ties. This would then be the ideological lever. This is a much more subtle but equally powerful form of control, especially if the handlers are connected to the same networks his ancestry is tied through. Therefore, the threat is not just exposure, but a profound existential and ideological crisis. His entire worldview is based on a racial and religious identity he may not genuinely possess, being presented with irrefutable genealogical evidence of his Jewish ancestry would pull the foundational rug out from under his entire operation. Is he a white nationalist leader, or is he a Jewish man leading a white nationalist movement? The cognitive dissonance would be unbearable. This type of knowledge would allow his handlers to frame their demands not as blackmail, but as a call to duty to his true people. They can appeal to tribal loyalty over ideological posturing. Why are you attacking us when you are one of us? This is a devastatingly effective psychological tool. It reframes compliance as returning to his roots, making him a willing participant rather than a coerced victim. But you are one of us. These two levers create a synthesis, the perfect blackmail loop, an inescapable prison of control. There are two scenarios. Scenario A, if he ever steps out of line geopolitically, example starts pointing fingers at Israel after an event like the Kirk assassination, lever 1, the homosexuality is activated. A discreet reminder is given. He immediately falls back in line as is seen previously. Scenario B, if he ever considers coming out personally to free himself from that particular blackmail, lever 2, his heritage is activated. He would be exposing himself not just as a homosexual, but as a Jewish homosexual who deceived his white nationalist followers. This is an even greater level of humiliation and career destruction that there would be no escape. This creates a mafia-style protection racket. The very forces that possess his Kompromat are the ones who allow him to operate. They protect him from having his secrets exposed by others, but that protection is contingent on his obedience. This explains his seemingly charmed life, why he's censored just enough to be a martyr, but never truly eliminated. His platform is a leash, and his secrets are the collar. You see, Nick Fuentes isn't just a flawed individual. He is a textbook example of a Kompromat-controlled asset. His personal life is the key to his public actions. His double life is not a coincidence. It is essential ingredients that makes him valuable to the very system he claims to fight. He is not a leader of the opposition. He is its warden. Act 11. The Cult of Personality and Spiritual Deception. Finally, we must address the spiritual poison. Fuentes doesn't just lead a political group. He cultivated a cult of personality. This is deeply anti-Christian. In a truly Christian movement, Christ is the center. In the Fuentes orbit, Nick is the center. His word is law. His humor is currency. His approval is validation. This is a classic trait of a destructive cult leader, creating a closed system where he is the sole arbiter of truth and salvation. He doesn't point his followers to God. He demands they point their devotion to him. His use of Catholicism is not about piety. It's about aesthetics and control. It provides a traditional veneer to mask a thoroughly modern narcissism. He uses the language of faith to elevate himself, not to humble himself before God. This is spiritual deception of the highest order, making a mockery of the very tradition he claims to defend. The conclusion. So, who is Nicolas J. Fuentes? He is not a leader. He is a weapon, a sophisticated psychological operation disguised as a man, a modern Moreno, a master of the double life, a closeted man projecting his self-loathing into a political movement. He is a geopolitical asset funded and directed to corral and poison and discredit dissent. His personal contradictions are not flaws, they are the required features of his design. They are the vulnerabilities that become the levers of his control. The message to his followers and to us all is now undeniable. You are not soldiers in a revolution. You are assets in a simulation. Your anger is being monetized. Your desire for a leader is being exploited by a man whose ultimate loyalty is to the very powers he claims to fight. This is not an expose of a man. It is a diagnosis of a system. The path forward is not to debate the puppet. It is to see the strings. It is to reject the spectacle. It is to seek voices of integrity, not performance, of substance, not sabotage. The first step to winning is to stop being their audience.